Hi, welcome back to Westbury 101. I'm Brian Westbury, Chief Economist at First Trust Portfolios. Remember, we want to be the antidote to conventional wisdom. Well, the other night I was watching Bill O'Reilly on Fox News debate Newt Gingrich, and they were debating whether Barack Obama is a socialist. Now, lots of this debate was about semantics. Are you a Castro socialist or a French socialist? And, that's okay. But what really got me was when Newt Gingrich was talking about how Barack Obama is regulating pay in financial institutions and bailing out auto companies. And Bill O'Reilly interrupted, in a debate way, and said, look, Republicans voted for TARP. I'm paraphrasing here. They gave hundreds of billions of dollars to these financial institutions. Shouldn't we be able to regulate what goes on inside of them? Aren't taxpayers do that if they give them tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars? And I got to tell you, Newt Gingrich did not have a good answer. What he should have said is TARP was a mistake right then and there. But he's kind of defending the Republican position. And remember, it was George Bush and Hank Paulson, Republican White House, and lots of Republican congressmen, all of by the way, will call themselves conservatives. They say they believe in free markets. They all voted for TARP. Now, in the middle of the crisis last year, I want to remind all of you that what we were saying in the middle of the battle was that we didn't have to pass TARP. What we needed to do was change mark-to-market accounting. In fact, I would highly recommend you go watch the September 30th, 2008 Westbury 101. It's on our website at www.ftportfolios.com. You can find it very easily, in which we said they need to change mark-to-market accounting. But the Treasury, Hank Paulson specifically, refused to do that. Now, remember, what was happening is that there was a fire sale going on. There was illiquidity. There was no trades going on in these markets. And these subprime loan pools, Alt-A loan pools, mortgage pools were falling to 30, 40, 20 cents on the dollar, wiping out bank capital, pushing banks to the brink of bankruptcy. Remember, we lost Wachovia, WAMU, Lehman, Bear. It was AIG. The list goes on. And I still believe that if we would have changed mark-to-market accounting in the middle of that or never allowed it to go into effect, we would not have lost all of those institutions. Maybe none of them, or maybe just one or two, but not all of them. They were a victim of the mark-to-market accounting mistake. Now, what's interesting is TARP was a workaround for mark-to-market accounting. What it said is, hey, we know all these assets that nobody knows how to price are dragging you down and knocking out your capital, so we're just going to buy them from you. The government's going to take them from you. In that way, we'll support. Well, there was never enough money to be able to do that. That's why TARP morphed later once it was passed, and they just injected capital directly into these banks. And now they say they can control their pay and interfere with the free marketplace because of that, or, by the way, bail out other people. Now, I have been accused of, people have said, hey, it's easy to be a general after the battle. You know, in the middle of the crisis, we were all scared. We were staring at the abyss. We had to do something. But that's not true in a sense. During the battle, I was saying we need to change mark-to-market and that TARP was a mistake. What's interesting about this is that a true conservative, one who believes in a small government, would have been able to see that TARP was a mistake. It was a huge interference by the government in the economy, and either you believe or you don't. You believe in the free market or you don't. And what was proven is that people don't believe in the market. George Bush said after the crisis was over, hey, I had to violate free market principles to save the free market. This is like saying I have to violate the 10 Commandments. I had to murder that guy to save the 10 Commandments. Well, that's ridiculous. The 10 Commandments don't need you or me to save them. They stand on their own. The same is true of the free market. Either you believe in the 10 Commandments and you believe in the free market, or you don't. And what was proven is that George Bush and Republicans who voted for TARP, they call themselves conservatives, many of them, don't believe in free markets. And what this does is it creates a huge problem, because this country survives because it has conservatives on one side, liberals on another. They both believe strongly in their position, and they both argue their position very well. What's happened now is that conservatives have ceded ground. They have, by bailing out the financial system and admitting that the crisis was so severe that the government had to step in. They've now said, oh, John Maynard Keynes was right. The liberals are right. The free market system can't stand on its own. We have to have government. And as a result, what's happened is that Washington has become lopsided. The good news is that the Tea Parties and many conservative Republicans are coming forward and fighting to gain back that ground. In Arizona, J.D. Hayworth is running against John McCain, and what's fascinating is that this whole argument came out very clearly. So let me go to an interview that John McCain did with the Arizona Republic. He met with the editorial board, and this was reported on in the paper. John McCain says he was misled by then Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson and Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke. McCain said the pair, Bernanke and Paulson, assured him that the $700 billion TARP plan would focus on what was seen as the cause of the financial crisis, the housing meltdown. Remember, what they were saying is we're going to buy those bonds. McCain said, obviously, that didn't happen. They decided to stabilize Wall Street institutions, bail out AIG, bail out Chrysler, bail out General Motors. What they figured was if they stabilized Wall Street, then Main Street would be fine. And so what John McCain is doing is he's trying to back away from his vote for TARP, his support of TARP, and say that he was misled about the use of those funds. But this is a non-existent defense. What he needs to say is that TARP was a huge mistake. But instead, he says this. He said something had to be done because the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. Any economist, liberal or conservative, would agree with that. Well, Senator McCain, I'm an economist. In the middle of the crisis, I was saying change mark to market. I do not agree with you about this. Not at all. In fact, I believe you've ceded the high ground. I believe many Republicans who call themselves conservatives have ceded the high ground, and the only way to get it back is to apologize and admit your mistake. TARP was a mistake. Remember, we want to be the antidote for conventional wisdom. See you next time.